In a land full of magic and enchantment, where every tree has a secret and every corner holds an adventure, a young girl in a red hood sets out on a journey, but hidden in the shadows, danger waits. Welcome to Folklora, a realm where ancient stories come alive. Today we share the legendary tale of Little Red Riding Hood, a story of bravery, deception, and the surprising twists that make fairy tales unforgettable. So, gather around, let your imagination soar, and step into the wondrous world of Folklora. Once upon a time, there was a kind and cheerful little girl. She was loved by everyone who met her, but her grandmother adored her the most. The grandmother often searched for new gifts to give the girl, until one day she found the perfect present, a small cap made from red velvet. It fit the girl so beautifully that she decided to wear it every day, and soon everyone began calling her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother asked her, "Little Red Riding Hood, take this cake and bottle of wine to your grandmother. She is ill, and these will help her feel better. Remember to greet her kindly, be polite on your way, and stay on the path. If you stray, you might drop the cake and wine, and then your grandmother won't have anything to help her recover." Little Red Riding Hood promised her mother that she would do as told. The grandmother's house was a short walk through the woods, about half an hour from their village. As Little Red Riding Hood wandered into the forest, she met a wolf. Unaware of his true nature, she wasn't afraid. "Good day, Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Thank you, wolf," she replied. "And where are you heading so early in the morning?" "To my grandmother's," she answered. "And what do you have under your apron?" "Some cake and wine. My grandmother is sick, and I am bringing these to help her feel stronger." "Tell me, Little Red Riding Hood," asked the wolf, "where does your grandmother live?" "She lives about a quarter of an hour from here, deep in the woods, under 3 large oak trees. There's a hedge of hazel bushes nearby." "You must know it," said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought to himself, what a delicious treat this could be. He then hatched a plan. "Little Red Riding Hood," said the wolf with a sly smile, "haven't you noticed the beautiful flowers blooming in the woods? Perhaps you should take a closer look. The birds are singing so sweetly too. You're walking as if you're heading to school in the village, but the forest is so much more beautiful." Little Red Riding Hood looked around and noticed how the sunlight streamed through the trees, and how the ground was covered with lovely flowers. "I should pick some flowers for grandmother," she thought. She would love that. After all, there was still plenty of time, so she ran off into the woods to find the perfect bouquet. The further she went, the more beautiful the flowers seemed, and she couldn't resist chasing after each one, getting deeper and deeper into the woods. While Little Red Riding Hood was busy picking flowers deep in the woods, the wolf wasted no time. He rushed straight to her grandmother's house and knocked on the door. "Who's there?" asked the grandmother weakly. "It's Little Red Riding Hood. I've brought you some cake and wine," replied the wolf, mimicking the girl's voice. "Just press the latch to open the door," called out the grandmother, too sick to get up. The wolf pressed the latch, and the door creaked open. He quickly entered the house, went straight to the grandmother's bed, and devoured her whole. Afterward, he took her clothes, dressed himself in them, and placed the grandmother's cap on his head. The wolf then climbed into the bed, pulled the curtains shut, and lay in wait. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood was still in the forest, gathering more and more flowers. She didn't continue on her way to her grandmother's house until her arms were full of blooms. When she finally arrived, she was surprised to see that the door was open. She stepped inside, and everything felt off. A chill ran down her spine as she thought, "Why do I feel so uneasy? I usually love being at grandmother's house." As she entered the room, she walked to the bed and pulled back the curtains. There, lying in the bed, was her grandmother, but something was very strange. Her grandmother's face was covered by her cap, and she looked odd. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have," Little Red Riding Hood said. "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied, his voice gruff. "Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have," she continued. "All the better to see you with," said the wolf, his eyes gleaming. "Oh, grandmother, what big hands you have," Little Red Riding Hood observed. "All the better to grab you with," the wolf growled. "Oh, grandmother, what a horribly big mouth you have," Little Red Riding Hood exclaimed. "All the better to eat you with," the wolf cried, jumping out of bed and pouncing on the poor girl, swallowing her whole. After finishing his meal, the wolf climbed back into bed, his belly full, and fell into a deep, loud snore. Just then, a huntsman who had been tracking the wolf for days passed by and heard the loud snoring from the house. That's strange, the huntsman thought. The old woman snores so loudly. Curious, he decided to investigate. When he entered, he was shocked to see the wolf lying in the bed. The huntsman realized the wolf had eaten the grandmother, but perhaps there was still a chance to save her. I won't shoot him, the huntsman decided. Instead, he grabbed a pair of scissors and began to cut open the wolf's belly. After only a few snips, he saw a glimmer of red, the girl's hood shining through. The huntsman cut a bit more, and out popped Little Red Riding Hood, gasping for air. Oh, I was so scared. It was so dark inside the wolf's body. Just then, the grandmother emerged from the wolf's belly, alive and well. Together, Little Red Riding Hood, the grandmother, and the huntsman worked quickly. Little Red Riding Hood gathered some heavy stones and filled the wolf's body with them. When the wolf finally woke and tried to run, the stones were so heavy that he collapsed and died. The three of them rejoiced, and the huntsman took the wolf's pelt as a trophy. It was a happy ending for them all, and they would never forget the danger that had lurked in the woods. After the frightening events with the wolf, the grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine that Little Red Riding Hood had brought for her. The young girl, reflecting on what had happened, made a vow to herself, "As long as I live, I will never leave the path or wander into the woods alone when Mother tells me not to." And it wasn't long before another lesson would be learned. On another visit to her grandmother's house, Little Red Riding Hood was carrying some freshly baked treats when she encountered yet another wolf. The wolf spoke to her, trying to convince her to stray from the path, but Little Red Riding Hood, having learned from her earlier adventure, stayed on course and made her way directly to her grandmother's house. Once there, she told her grandmother, "I saw the wolf again. He greeted me, but his gaze was full of malice. If we hadn't been on the main road, he would have surely eaten me up." "Come," said the grandmother. "Let's lock the door so he can't get in." It wasn't long before the wolf knocked on the door, calling out, "Open up, grandmother. It's Little Red Riding Hood with some baked goods." But the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood remained silent. The wolf circled the house a few times, trying to find a way in, before finally climbing onto the roof. His plan was to wait until Little Red Riding Hood left, and then follow her in the darkness, planning to attack. But the grandmother, quick to notice what the wolf was up to, had an idea. "There's a large stone trough in front of the house," she said. "Fetch me a bucket, Little Red Riding Hood. Yesterday I cooked some sausage. Bring me the water I boiled them in and pour it into the trough." Little Red Riding Hood carried the water to the large trough until it was full. The delicious smell of the sausage broth wafted up into the air, reaching the wolf's nose. The wolf, curious, stretched his neck down to get a better sniff, losing his balance in the process. He slipped off the roof, falling into the trough, and was drowned by the weight of the water. Little Red Riding Hood returned home safe and sound, relieved that the danger had passed, and so the tale of the wolf came to an end. But the magic of fairy tales never fades. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more legendary tales from around the world. What story would you like to hear next? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, remember to keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep the magic alive.